Hi, Greg Lindley here, back with you for another CSRM podcast. And whether you're driving your car and listening to it on your commute or on your treadmill, listening, or you're sitting in front of your computer watching it, we're welcoming you here. I will tell you that we're broadcasting here during COVID-19 times, so we can't be in our studio. We apologize. The quality is not quite what it needs to be or up to speed, but I think we understand where we are. So it's a little bit more organic here today. With me is David Waddell. David is a professor at Ole Miss in the leisure pursuits, and we covered all of that and his background in the last one, and we talked about how CSR is up to these days. And so without any further ado, David Waddell, welcome, and take us to the next step. What's happening with CSRM?
Greg, thank you again for the opportunity to speak on this important ministry. Some more things that are happening is just what I would call an explosion of publishing. Our arm of ministry that Greg here directs, the Overwhelming Victory Press and the Overwhelming Victory Flicks, has just gone nuts. I think we're up to 8 or 9 books now that have been published and are available, some through Kindle, others through our website, and would recommend that you go to CSRM.org and then click on the store, and those books will become available. You'll find books that are done by Overwhelming Victory Press, as well as authors that are friends of CSRM, but we have just really got some good authors putting out some good work, really in giving a great idea of the foundation of sport and recreation ministry, how to make sure it remains a ministry and not just some kind of a program in your church. And so I would recommend that you look at those. We also have seen recently an expansion in our podcast ministry. Greg and his team are covering, they did 4 straight Tuesdays in May called COVID Conversations, and those will be continuing monthly. Those announcements come out through both our email mailing list and our social media accounts. If you're not liking our social media accounts, go to CSRM in Facebook. You can find it either by CSRM or typing in Church Sports and Recreation Ministers Association in the search window, and you'll find it. A lot of our announcements come through social media and our website. Just some amazing opportunities, and like this one here, just getting to hear from Greg and myself on what's going on in the ministry. It's just really amazing how much work, how much resources are coming out to help the local church in changing lives, in helping people know Jesus and helping people be shaped like Jesus. It's just really neat. I think some other opportunities we have, there may be some people listening to this today that say, you know, I like that ministry. I'm all about sport, recreation, and fitness ministries. How can I help? Well, I got 2 ideas for you. One is click on my name in the website, CSRM.org. Go to the leadership page, click on my name, and send me an email. We have positions available, both on our board of trustees, or you may even want to look at becoming a staff member. We kind of have 2 levels with that. One is an associate staff, where you basically work 10 hours or less. There's no financial remuneration, but you contribute toward the mission of CSRM. Others may want to take that next step and find folks that will support them in a faith ministry type of step and collect tax-deductible gifts from friends, family, former churches, others, mission departments, and work more than 10 hours in assisting us. If you have a calling or a specific gift in some kind of realm of the sport, recreation, and fitness ministry, we would love to open up the conversation and how you can assist us in assisting local churches. Great opportunities, Greg.
So if you missed any of that, just go to the website, and we are constantly looking for people who love Jesus, are excited about helping churches do their sports, rec, and fitness. There's always opportunities to come and serve. And we do have international staff, and of all the years that we've been doing this, 20 plus years, we've only had one so-called Westerner that went to another country. Everybody else is indigenous. So if you're listening to this in some country that CSRM currently is not in, feel free to email, like I said. You never know. We may be able to work something out in your country where you start the ministry there. So we are growing. We're thinking some good things are in the future. And yeah, Dave, the Overwhelming Victory Press, the 10th book is being edited for release later this year of 2020, which would make it our 5th book of this year that we would have published. And we also now have 4 on Kindle, and by the end of the summer we should have 8 on Kindle. And so we don't have to pay as much to ship it to Bangladesh as it would be to print it. And so we're also, David, having them translated. Just yesterday, you didn't even know this, David, but just yesterday, I was communicating with someone about getting it done in French and in the native tongue of the country that I can't even pronounce. So we are moving on also those translations to make it possible all around the world. What else is on the CSRM front here, David?
Well, let me add one other aspect, because some people may be listening to this and saying, I don't feel called to be a board member. I don't feel called to go into staff work, but I still want to help. And let me just tell you, we need people like you as well. Ministries operate off of faith, but faith does need some works. And so fundraising is always crucial. And so some of you listening to this may say, I want to help, but I'm not in a place time-wise or talent-wise to jump in. Well, it may be that God has put it on your heart to assist in another way. I'll just say it this way. Marketing costs money. There's no way to tell people that we have all these amazing resources available without some form of marketing. And we're utilizing every bit of free marketing that we can through social media, email, etc. But it still is going to require some. So helping with that. One in particular is it would really benefit our Overwhelming Victory ministry if they had their own website. So we could link them to our website or from our website, but also people just wanting resources could go straight to a particular website. Statistics tell us if people have to click more than 3 times, they give up. So if we have our own website that can issue these podcasts, these videos, these resources, that would be beneficial. And so it may be that you want to designate a gift for the OVP website each year. I'll also say this, all of our staff, except the associate staff and myself, work off of that faith basis and work off the generosity and the love that other people have. So it may be that you want to look through that leadership team and find a staff member or give a donation and split it amongst those that are leaning upon their faith and leaning upon God to provide the income so that they can do this valuable ministry. It's just very helpful. And I hope you'll prayerfully consider that.
Yes, absolutely. And I just piggyback on that again, Andrew, who makes these things, spins all the dials to make these products go out, that he's telling me that the number of hits that are coming, watching these things, listening to these things, reading these things, just hundreds and hundreds. And somebody, if you want to put investment on your spiritual dollar, really impacting the entire world. And so it couldn't be better spent. And David, you mentioned the COVID conversations, which for 4 weeks in a row, we talked about what was happening during this pandemic in youth sports, how to reopen a facility, fitness ministries, all the financial concerns, et cetera, et cetera. I can tell you, because this is something that you're really excited about, have been pushing us, is that there's a lot of churches that are 200, 250 less. They have limited resources, they have limited budget, they have limited facilities, and they want to do this. They want to grow their congregation. And those COVID conversations were part of a series called Tuesday Talks, because they are talks. People it's like sitting at the cafe. There's not a presentation. It's just organic conversation that we can run sitting at a cafe. And it's Tuesday. So Tuesday Talks. Go figure. Yeah, we're real creative. Anyway, the next one is going to be for those churches that have those limitations. And how do you actually start? That's going to be the last Tuesday of June of 2020. And then we come back and we've got a schedule for late August. It's the last Tuesday of every month, so you can put it on your calendar. And that one is going to be featuring how do you do sports and rec ministries, fitness ministries, with those challenges, physically, emotionally, what have you. And Challenger Baseball, for example, what a wonderful thing. And we've got some really great resources of people that'll come and talk about how they're doing it in their churches. And so, yeah, we've got a lot of resources that are out there. David, what's the we've kind of talked about a little bit of the past and the present, and feel free to keep on the present where we're going in South Africa, South America, wherever, and also the future. What's up?
Great. Can you repeat your question? I lost.
Yeah, we're sorry if there's any difficulty here, but the question was, we've talked a little bit about the past of CSRM, a little bit about the current present, and we're also then talking about the future. So, talk about maybe a little bit more about us moving to South America, South Africa, and then what's the future? Where are we going?
Oh, very good. Thank you. We were blessed. Our international director, I think, knows everyone in the world somehow or other. And it's just unique the way God works. So someone knew someone who got in contact with our international director, and kabam, just like that, now we have a ministry link in Colombia, in South America. And I always like to use the quotation marks and say, gee, what a coincidence.
And we've never been in South Africa, or South America rather, until now.
No. Yeah, and it's just amazing how God works and put things together. And since the time that we enlisted this couple as a global network partner, we have discovered relationships that they have with people in the U.S. that we didn't know, that now we have like this triangle of connection. It's so much fun to watch God work. I can't say it any other way. To find Bradley all of a sudden as a continental director in Africa, he is personally recruiting people in different nations and different people groups that have a love for church sports and using sports as a way of reaching people. And so I think in some ways we have an amazing future if we'll not mess it up. If we let God do his thing and just join him where he's working, I think we're going to have a great opportunity and a continuing impact between resources that we develop and the connections that we develop in small churches, large churches, mega churches, and international churches. I can see the whole church, sports, and recreation and fitness movement continuing to impact this world in amazing ways. We're still talking about one of the avenues that our culture loves as much as anything else. People are now at the place where if they can't get a salary increase, they negotiate for more paid time off. It's a leisure-driven culture, and we've got the tools to use that to reach people for Christ. I'll tell you another thing I'm excited about, and it's the future of CSRM. You can tell by a little bit of the gray in the beard that I'm getting to the place where it's time for me to hand off to Joshua, or for me to declare Solomon king. And so Board of Trustees has developed an executive director search committee to find my replacement. And the idea behind this is that we'll hire someone by September of this year who will work hand in hand with me for the next year and then take over the reins in September of 2021. They've targeted a few folks to look at. One looks very bright and very exciting. That's all I can say about it at this point. But I will say this, if that particular person gets it, I would hand the baton off joyfully. And so the good days are ahead of us. And this particular person is not got gray in the beard. And so it could be a long tenure and a long experience.
Now,
Go ahead, Greg.
I want to make sure that people didn't misunderstand this. When David used the names Joshua and Solomon, those aren't the people that applied for the job. He was making reference to Joshua, Moses handing off to Joshua, and then also Solomon, becoming the king after David. So whoever's going to be the king after this David, we have not given any names out because that's not public knowledge at this point, just so you didn't mishear that out there. But it is in fact, an exciting time. I mean, you've been there since the beginning. This whole thing started almost 30 years ago. And think about that our whole movement or community has got about 100 years on it. And it's been helping churches ever since then, and that's our goal and hope for the future. But you're not going anywhere. As I said when I said it's time for me to step off, I said I'm not riding into the sunset, but my horse is facing west. and so we all know that age and whatever comes into that. But we would ask for people to pray that the transition for the future would be done well, and it could be even better than it is now. Your other thoughts about any of that, Dave?
Well, my horse may be facing west as well, but I can't get him to move. And so, yes, I'll stick around. When I think of the future, though, and even handing off this baton, it's not like I'm handing it off and then running and hiding. I do think of the word in the Proverbs 16:9 where it says, we can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I would say about the future, here's kind of what I see my role being. But again, the Lord will determine the steps on this, and I'm willing to go wherever he wants to go with it. I see myself completely staying on as an advisor to the executive director, much like former presidents have done with current presidents. I'm there. If the person wants to call and whine about the staff, if they want to call and whine about the board, I'll be the one that sits there and goes, I understand. So I'll stay on as an advisor. I will say this also. I tell my classes that every place I ever left got better after I was gone. And of course, they always giggle and think it's because I was lousy, but I know in my heart it's because I've trained good leaders. The last two churches I was on staff when I left, my assistant took over the reins as director. One of them still works at a church in Ozark, Missouri that took over at first in Springfield. And John Longworth is still 20 years later the recreation pastor at Germantown Baptist. And so sometimes when I get out of the way, it actually benefits the ministry. And so I'm looking for this one to take place as well. I think the coincidental timing of my departure from this position will also be very close to the time that I'll step down as a lecturer here at Ole Miss. And so I will have more free time. And so I see myself doing a couple of things. One is I've had a blast serving on the OVP, the Overwhelming Victory Press editorial board, getting to help other authors write, develop things that help the local church. And so I would hope that I could jump back in a little bit more than I do now in serving with them. I have a penchant for writing myself in a series of what I kind of call practical theology. I've compared my own sin and stupidity with Bible characters and my own stories with Bible stories in a couple of books. Third book related to experiences I've had in worship and how worship should be a lifestyle rather than an event. And so I'll probably pick up more of that writing. But I also see with that extra time, I may help develop some textbooks for sports ministry academic programs, or some more practical how-to books for sport and recreation professional practitioners. And so by no means, Moses, when he handed it off to Joshua, watched the children go into the promised land, and he went up into a mountain to die. There are no mountains here in Oxford, and if I move to the mountains, it's certainly not my intent to just go and die. So you can retire from positions, you can't retire from callings, and it's pretty evident in my life. I think 2 years, maybe a year out of my life, career-wise, has not been involved in some kind of sport or recreation type of position. It's what God wired me to be. It's who He made me to be. So they won't get rid of me unless they want to get rid of me. I'll say it that way.
Well, David, I know that you've served well these last couple of years, and I just can't thank you enough. And again, what a privilege it's been to work with you. Our hearts have been linked, and our efforts have synchronized, and it's just fun to see what's happening. We've come to the end of another CSRM podcast, and David, again, thank you for being with us, and we look forward to these next months and years together, serving together. If you have any questions at all about CSRM, if you want a position on the board, you want a position on the staff, we can't guarantee that, but we can at least guarantee you'll get an interview and get a listen. And we need you all out there to help us. We need writers. We need people to come to the Reach gathering and do presentations. So please do contact with us. But David, from the bottom of my heart, thanks for who you are and what you do, and for joining us on this podcast.
Appreciate it, Greg. Thanks so much. Love working with you and with all the gang at CSRM.